Ramesh,
Yes, sir.
Dr. Meenakshi will be late today because she has classes up till 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay.
We'll wait for 5 more minutes for Nitya and Tintin. Tintin has accepted. Tintin, Nitya, Vinay. Should we wait for some more time, Ramesh? You
Yes,
are.
sir. Should be okay, sir. Yeah, yeah, we can
Yes,
wait,
sir.
sir.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Hi, Nitya. She's on mute. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Good,
Hi. Good evening.
good evening.
So Meenakshi will be late anyway. Then we have before that I have invited a special person today. Uh, she is a, I would say primarily she is a dancer. Secondly, she is doing her CA. Come on, Aisha. Aisha, come on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Aisha Ray.
Hi.
I'm from Calicut. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Aisha.
Welcome, Aisha ji.
So Meenakshi should. So Aisha, the you see the cursor moving towards your right. This is Nitya. She is BTech plus great lot of qualifications in management and statistics and all that. She is working in a senior position in government of Australia. Right now she is in Darwin. She is sitting there. This is Naveen Chandra, a wonderful guy, a senior officer in the Secretariat of the Chief Minister of Bihar, and he is sitting in Patna. And this is Ramesh Manickam. He's a top manager in German organization Siemens, but working in the research and development department of Siemens in Bangalore. He's an MTech from IIT Delhi with some 20-25 years of experience. Then this is Ashwati. She is an architect. She was working with the currently top architect in country called Christopher Benninger. But after the COVID situation, she is now preparing to start her own architectural firm. This is Veena Ganesh, a genius therapist doing training programs in creativity and related aspects. This is Mantra Rishiga doing her final year degree, and here is Amay Rajarti just completed his final degree. And we have three more people. All of them are working in organizations, therefore they may not be able to come on that time, most of the time. We are expecting uh, three more, but they may join anytime. And anyway, we record our video program, so it will be available in the YouTube. Not entire program, but selected parts will be in the YouTube. So they have some freedom to be late or sometimes you're not present. How are you, Vina?
I'm okay, sir. I'm fine.
All right. Okay. All right, Ramesh, if you're ready, you can proceed. I had a glance through your presentation.
Okay, sir.
It is very extremely very. By the way, Ramesh, Ashwati is recording it. Ramesh, you don't have to record it.
Oh, okay, sir. Then that's okay. Yeah.
And there is Tintin. Why don't you come on the screen? And this is Tintin. Again, was a top IT professional, and right now he is a consultant for an international firm called Deloitte. Heard of it? Deloitte. Aisha. So you're also doing your chartered accountancy. Have you heard of that firm called Deloitte? Yeah. It is one of the topmost consultancy plus accounting plus that kind of organization in the world. Tintin. Now Vinay is here. Vinay, just come on the stage. We have an invited guest today. This is Vinay. He is the head of marketing of a top textile company. And we have an invited person today, very special person by name Aisha Reem. I would like to introduce her basically as an entity of dance. She's a dancer. Plus, she is currently doing her CA. She writes very well, and she has a lot of creative inclinations. That's all. Okay, Tintin. All
Thank you,
right.
sir.
Okay, Ramesh.
Yes, sir.
I welcome your presentation. It is very, very high order. Very high order. Okay, please proceed.
Okay, sir. I'll just share the screen. Is the screen visible, sir?
Yeah, visible.
Yeah. Okay. So, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Prasad sir, for asking me to take this session. And so today, the topic that we have been discussing the from last week is about the learnings since onset. So before starting this, I thought let me do a bit of statistics in the 16,803 days which I have spent on this earth. Let me do a bit of statistics. 22nd November 2020, that's almost 9 months, 27 days since I've been associated with this Genius in Self program, about 300 days, which is close to 7,200 hours. In that, roughly about, say, 1/3, if it's the productive time or effective time, about 5% of my time in the last 9 months I spent in Genius in Self. That is again a huge amount of time. At about 125 hours, we have spent on this, about 42 sessions, and maybe 1 or 2 sessions I would have missed, but that also I was trying to catch up with Ashwati's recordings. So this is just to give a background about what is the impact this particular program would have had on each of us. So just I was trying to see statistics on that. From there, I was trying to connect the dots in terms of what is the learnings when sir asked us to do. It was again, lots of learnings were there from small to big. I was trying to see how I can capture every single aspect of my learnings. Then I found out that I cannot capture it in one single aspect of it. So there has to be multiple dimensions because the learnings has happened in multiple dimensions. To a certain level, I would try to do a justice to document these learnings from multiple perspectives. So that's where I put this Sanskrit word Samsanjanam, where I was trying to combine, join, connect the dots, unite everything. And the learnings from Prasad sir sessions, I would want to classify in multiple activities. So this is again a part of my daily checklist of activities from knowing. So in terms of knowing, it is to do with understanding what is already available in this world. So in terms of capturing knowledge, in terms of reading, in terms of explorations on existing activities, existing things. Second is in being, so understanding self, understanding the body, understanding mind, understanding the spiritual sense, understand in terms of inspiration. Major Prasad sir's learning has impacted me on the being part of it. And doing is where my regular work, my extended works, in terms of my regular sustenance, in terms of doing something beyond. So the being that I've learned in Prasad sir sessions is impacted a lot in my doing. I would want to touch upon that also in today's session. And visibility. So now knowing, being, doing is what we normally put it together, but all the other ones are some of the extensions which I felt are some things that I have broken it down. Some of these can also be grouped into knowing, being, doing. So one is showing.
Okay, just a minute, Ramesh. I may intervene in between as usual.
Yes,
So,
sir.
to the attention of Aisha, Ramesh said three critical words: knowing, doing, and being. So, we can look at the human entity and its development and evolution from three angles or three spokes of the wheel, like of a bullock cart, three spokes. One is called knowing, that all the knowing you have for anybody. For example, for example, for you, the knowing in Bharatanatyam, or the knowing in accounting, or the knowing in painting, or like Ashwati, knowing in architecture, or like Ramesh, knowing in, he's a design engineer. He's one of the top design engineers in the country, or marketing. So whatever you know, a human being has to know. Unlike the cat and the bird and other entities in the world, human beings can evolve only by knowing. So knowing is a critical dimension, and a certain part of that knowing, all knowings are of course very significant, but there are certain knowings which has to be translated, which has to be converted into doing. Doing means to do. For example, you can have knowing about a certain dish, a certain food item. You can look into the book of recipes. You can learn that ingredients. You can learn how to cook, etc. By reading that book, writing about that recipe in an examination and get an A plus. That is knowing. Doing meaning actually entering in the kitchen and translating whatever you have learned or you are knowing into the doing of cooking. That is called doing, the second dimension. Okay, that means the second spoke of the wheel, like a three-spoke wheel, like the steering wheel. Three spokes. That means three. What is a spoke? From the center to the rim, connecting. So doing is the second one, and uh, most of the critical knowings are really valid or really valuable, or the value of a knowing is in doing it. A great lot of people in the world have a lot of knowings, but very rarely, seldom they translate, they convert, they give expression. Like Ramesh said, very rarely they manifest knowing into doing. Like Satyameva Jayate, it's a great knowing, but they do not most of the time translate that Satyamness into doing. Their doings may not be Satyam. They may do many unethical activities or love your neighbor, for example. That is all philosophical, or there are doings. mentioned in physics or in engineering technologies, medical technology, or management, or marketing, or various science knowledges. They are all great knowings, but very few people only can translate that knowing in physics or chemistry or engineering or various technologies into real doing. That's why when there are so many engineers in India, only very few can do wonderful doing of that engineering. For example, the great bridges, great factories, or great engineering in India, most of the time they have been supervised by engineers from US or Canada or Germany or England. We also have the universities and institutes where such knowings are available, but we do not train the students, their attention, their engines of conversion, imagination, visualization, and so that they can translate their knowledge, let us say, in engineering design of an automobile, of a car, into doing. See, if you look at the cars in India, most of them have been designed in Japan or US or other places. So that is called doing. Like your knowledge in dance is converted into doing. And third dimension is being, B-E-I-N-G. Being meaning that being right now sitting there, Aisha sitting there, or Ramesh sitting there, Veena sitting there, Naveen sitting there. That is the being, B-E-I-N-G. So there are certain knowings that should be translated into being. Let us say character, so-called good character, to be honest, to have integrity, to be truthful, to have many other things like gratitude or various values and principles of life and work and relationships. These values are known to many people, but that values or that knowings are not converted into being. That means that person becomes truthful. Truth is wonderful. Everybody can give a talk on truth, but that truthfulness is not converted into their state of being. Get the point, Aisha? This is for clarification of Aisha. So that is what, because when Ramesh says everybody else is clear about these things. So I am explaining this so that Aisha also can go along with what Ramesh is going to present. So Aisha is invited today, but today Ramesh is a highly qualified design engineer, so his ideas and concepts could be of a very different level. So you can write down points. When if you want to ask a question, you can ask today, I mean, on the spot or after some time. All right, Aisha? All right. Okay, Ramesh, continue.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, Dan, my regular presentations. So normally when I'm presenting again, Tintin was also talking last time that I
Ramesh,
normally
Ramesh, Ramesh, you reduce the speed of delivery of your
yes,
ideas. All right.
yes. That's what I was coming to. So
Okay,
in
I
terms of
noticed it. I noticed it. Okay.
communication, I told to myself that I will be a bit more slow and uh, be a bit more calmer and deliver the talk. Yeah.
Beautiful. You're already doing it. Okay, please continue.
Yeah. So now in terms of knowing, being, and doing, so these are the primary three things where everything and anything that I'm showcasing it later will fall into. So these are all again the subcategories. So this showing, I was again trying to question myself, should I start putting that showing? So now this presentation is again showing. So anything that we are trying to showcase, it's not necessarily showcasing of self, but in terms of sharing. So that also is showing. So I would want to put under showing anything to create visibility. So at work, normally it's again a huge organization. Within that organization, I should create an identity for my work. For that, I need to start showing. So some substantial amount of my time is also going into showing. So I felt that let me put one heading in terms of showing. So where at work I'm creating visibility in terms of my domain, in terms of design, in terms of experiences, defining experiences, how I'm able to showcase what I have in terms of sharing with others. All this I would want to classify into the showing part of it.
Wait. That's a very important point which you're talking. You have to stress a little more about that, Ramesh, because we have so many capabilities, we have so many knowings. We are talking about a different kind of doing today. That is the doing of showing what you know, right?
Yes,
That's
sir.
what you said, okay? Showing in the basically in the form of even a PowerPoint or in the form of a written document or in
Yes,
the
sir.
way you behave yourself in an organization or in a public place or in a group or other kinds of trained showings. That's a very important point, Ramesh. So showings, a very
Yes, sir.
important doing. So one needs to develop various elegant ways of showing what you already know. That's what you mean, Ramesh. Is that so?
Yes, sir. It's an elegant way of showing because
Yeah.
that is where because an individual entity can do n number of activities, but unless he is able to communicate, unless he is able to showcase it, such that the other person is able to understand. So it can be in terms of showcasing of self or in terms of sharing an idea. So that communication, that all that will be part of that showing.
Of course, very important. So Ramesh is using the concept of showing. I would say the number one showing right now, if I use the concept of Ramesh, is in talking. I mean, delivering the language. How do you explain? How do you define? How do you describe? How do you report whatever you have observed or whatever you know, whatever you have experienced, and so on and so forth? Right, Ramesh?
Yes, sir.
So Ramesh is now throwing a special light, in fact, which we have not done till today. The need of doing the showing or showcasing or manifesting your knowing in whatever forms, especially in the language. Though we never used that concept, we always focused on the way of language, languageifying. How do you report something the way you have experienced? How can you report it in such a way that, like a bullet shot, it hits the target and serves the purpose? Very good point, Ramesh. And in fact, I have actually decided, Ramesh, to reserve some of the sessions or some significant part of the sessions to train everyone to do this so-called showing, in the sense of very precisely, very effectively um, uh, delivering the language. I mean, explanations and descriptions.
Yeah, definitely,
Very, very
sir.
important. By the way, before you get on to the next slide, please explain how you coincided with the concept of samasajanam here also. Okay,
Yeah,
samasajanam.
yeah.
All right. Okay.
So
Proceed. Yeah.
yeah. So again, showing is very important because in the recent era of internet and social media, all that thing, it's not necessarily again. I would not want to limit in terms of showcasing a self, in terms of sharing. From that perspective is where I'm putting importance in terms of it showing. The next is the caring. So caring, I always felt the strength for an individual comes from multiple perspectives. So I would want to talk about multiple dimensions of what I have been in the last 16,000 days or something. So where this carrying part of it with respect to family or with respect to home, I was not into that domain at all because my overall objective was somewhere else. But the last 1.5 years, the amount of carrying and it gives a different level of energy in terms of your family, in terms of your network. Now, in terms of network, again, the genius choice is again an extended family for me. That caring, every individual within the genius choice cares for me, and I care for everyone. The encouragement that they bring in, the critical comments that they bring in. So, all those are again me as an individual. I was not looking at caring at all. But this opened up a complete new dimension in terms of a strength, which gives a lots of confidence. Again, I would want to call caring not only from a relationship perspective, but again in terms of sharing responsibilities. Again, in terms of the working at home, I was totally a no-no in the last 20 years or something in the last marriage life. But in the last one and a half years, I've been involved with Anandavali in terms of lots of activities at home. All that is again, I show a bit of caring. So that is again bringing in lots of positive energies in the being. So I thought, let me have that also as one of the heading. in terms of because the activities which I put here are the activities which are taking some amount of my regular time in my day. So from that perspective, I put in terms of family, network, home working, that is taking some amount of my work. So that is one heading which I put.
Ramesh, for the sake of the integrity of language, always try to use the concept of doing instead of activities.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So, and also point out to the audience whether do not assume. Now, actually, you are talking about and the top listed thing in the ideas in the slide, right? So, from knowing
Yes,
and being, then doing, then showing. Now you finished the caring, right? So that also you please indicate that which aspect you are talking. And there is a
Yes, sir.
black mark here. What is that?
That is that screen, sir. That is part of the screen like speaker. So it doesn't go. So it just stays there.
Okay, please proceed. Okay.
Yeah. So please stop me whenever there is any clarifications or anything that we can discuss. So then we can discuss on that and keep moving on further. The next one which I would want to discuss about is giving. Giving is again a derivative from doing, where in terms of the contributions, in terms of sharing, in terms of community, larger within my design community, or within the genius choice community, or within the larger community in terms of giving. So whatever I have gained, I am giving. But when this giving has been there in my initial part of the career, I was looking at what is it in for me. But now the giving has changed in terms of I'm not looking at it in terms of what is in for me. I have something, let me share. So that unconditional sharing is where the changes happen in terms of the giving. Next, I would go on to the sorry. So this is the giving, growing part of it. Yeah. The next is the growing. So growing normally is looking at something not at the present, what I am going to grow tomorrow or the next moment or next second. So it is to do with the future. So for looking at what I am going to grow, so that it's a natural growth, but there is also some amount of reflection that happens, which changes my being to a certain level. So my doing, this again a derivative of doing. So my doing is related to what I reflect on myself on my past, and based on it, I do some course corrections, or I do my planning based on my reflection. So that enhances my growing capacity. So in terms of reflecting, planning, and executing, so that I would want to classify it into growing.
Please explain once again the growing part.
Okay, growing. So me as a being, or any living thing in this earth continuously evolves, continuously grows. So it can grow as a forest on its own, or it can grow as a much more healthier being. So there is a combination of randomness, and there's a combination of organized in the way that it has to grow. So that makes the being a healthier being in terms of the growth. So for the being to be much more healthier in terms of growing, the reflecting part of it is
of course, that engine of reflection, reflecting upon the kind of doings or the kind of noise vis-a-vis an upper direction is essential for growing. Am I right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Only in that reflection, what I am, what I have been, what I want to be. So that reflection is a compulsory engine, compulsory chapter required for growing. Great lot of people are not growing because they do not reflect. Reflect meaning there can be standard procedures of reflection. One can just sit down at 10 o'clock in the night and just make a quick survey assessment of what I have been doing. Is that the only way I could do it? Can there be a better way of doing it? Not necessarily every day, at least on significant days. Was there a better way to talk to that person? Was there a different way to interact with that person? Was there a different? That is called reflection. So when you do that reflection, naturally the reflected thing has to proceed. So, or someone can start writing a diary every day. Oh, this is what I have done today. So just write that. And in that very process of writing what one has been doing in a day, that writing itself involves moments of reflection. Because you have to go back to that day. Then only you can write about it. So even that is a reflection. And doing that for a long time, you will automatically develop that engine of reflection to run parallel, like two engines of a jet aircraft. That engine also will run parallel to your doing. Then only there is growing. Great lot of people are playing cricket. Great lot of people are trying to learn dance. Great lot of people are trying to learn keyboard, violin, etc., etc., etc. But only very few people reach the finer possibilities of that performance. Though they are capable, because why they are only they? Because only they happen to reflect upon that. A lot of people say, I have criticized publicly. A lot of people say, I got first prize because of my hard work. That is not correct, in the sense that a great lot of people do really hard work. They just do hard work and go and sleep. They do not reflect upon the so-called work they have been doing. So, very important variable, Ramesh, is like, Ramesh, you have to incorporate that things in your writing.
Yes, sir.
So when you discuss and when you interpret a thing, you are bringing in several significant engines, significant ingredients required for that. Like you casually mentioned reflection. Of course, that's an important point. But you could have also focused upon that significant or critical role of reflection in the process of growing. All right.
Yes, sir.
Similarly, you could have talked about the significant element. Knowing, being, doing is a general term. You could have talked about the significant variable required for showing, significant variable required for caring, significant at least one, minimum three. Okay, at least one critical part by which this doing of caring is implemented. A significant part, a significant linkage by which the doing of giving becomes really giving, like you have done for growing reflection.
Yes, sir.
So, yes.
In my presentation, I will be touching upon all these areas that I have been listing it out in multiple areas, sir.
Oh, in the coming slides, sir.
Coming slides,
Beautiful.
all that will be part of it.
Okay. Proceed.
So this is like a precursor in terms of showcasing. These are all the areas which I will be touching upon. So I'm not going into depth here. So I'm just this like a precursor.
In other words, these elements will be discussed in the subsequent slides, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're right.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, proceed. Yeah.
So the next one is having. So like showing, I was also questioning multiple times of the concept of having. So each of us buy something, each of us want something, each of us desire to have something, or not only you being a part of an extended family, the family wants certain things, part of owning. So that having has a certain influence on what we are doing and also what we are being. So the desire of wanting something, it could be as simple as I would want to have a good pen. So that also is, I would want to classify that also into part of having. Why should I want to have a good pen? So that could be from as simple as a pen to whatever it can be extrapolated to having from multiple dimensions. Each of us want to have something. So that having can also become from a positive connotation that can also pull a person onto a negative connotation where instead of having as the output, if you put having as a driver, it becomes as a negative. So you are running in for something else in for having. But if having is instead of it become as a driver, it is a consequence. It's an output. So then from that perspective, the having becomes as a more pleasurable activity than it becomes as a more stressful activity. Uh, from next, I would want to get into the relaxing part of it. So the relaxing part is the being to be at its best. It requires breaks. It requires entertainment. It requires us recharging. And I would want to say the best part of being comes when it is in that relaxed mode. Uh, so this again, during my centroid days, continuous running in terms of work activities where I was not spending time on relaxing or in terms of traveling. It had completely constrained myself, and it had closed a certain amount of my domain perspectives. That relaxing again opens up a perspective where your being and doing enhances. From there, going on to the charging. The charging is again your body requires to recharge itself in terms of your sleeping, naps. It needs to energize the body for it to be more efficient in the doing part of it. Finally, I want to come up with your climbing. So this is part of the planning activity that we have seen earlier. All of us put certain goals. So I divide my work into two areas. My regular work, I do it as work. My extended works, I do it as a work in terms of what destination which I would want to go. So I always feel that climbing in terms of climbing a mountain. So you need to go towards the top of a mountain, but you don't have a proper pathway. You don't have a proper direction, but you know the destination I should reach on top of the mountain. So it's okay. Earlier, I always feel that going on top of mountain, I should go in the least possible time. I should go as speed as possible. So that speed, that least possible time, all these as constraints when I'm putting onto myself, the being becomes really very stressed. But the sessions in terms of the turning point, you take as such naturally. Lots of the sessions in Prasad's topic I would be touching on, which allowed my goal to be more aligned and moving towards my ultimate destination than being a stressful activity. It is much more a pleasurable activity is where I would want to touch upon in some of the slides which I am going to share. So these are all the different areas which I'll be talking on in my slides. From there, in terms of the contents of my presentation, to do justice to showcase what I have learned in the last 9 months, 27 days, I put different perspectives of, I was trying to see if I could showcase one perspective and show my learning, but I wouldn't do justice if I show only one perspective. So multiple perspectives, I thought, let me showcase it. The first one is me as a person, my journey, what I was earlier, and in the last 9 months, what has happened and how it has, I wouldn't want to call it as transformed, but it has fine-tuned me a lot, because I would, than a transformation, it has allowed me to understand and fine-tuned me to be more readiness factor. So that my past, present, and future, I will be touching upon as a pictorial journey. The next is my learning journey in terms of the initial first part of it was lots of exposure sir gave us. Then lots of practice sessions. We were working on lots of exercises in terms of Jack and Jill, in terms of the Satori, the Sound of the Forest, the Master Cook. All those were practice sessions. Then from practice sessions, we went on to the fine tuning aspects of it. So that I would want to touch upon a few learnings from the sessions on these three headings. The next is, what is a learning outcome that has impacted me as a person? So on three headings, I'll be touching upon in terms of what acceptance, in terms of what improvements it has brought into me, and reinitiation, some things that I have left earlier, but I have reinitiated some of those activities. So in these three areas, and the typical walkthrough in a typical day, from randomness to routine, that I would want to showcase, and Kalpaviksha. It's a wishing tree, so which I put across in a model. I call this as the SKEET framework. Any learning model is basically it can be dealt as a skill, something I need to practice, knowledge which is already available, I need to know about it, and explore. I need to go beyond knowledge, explore what is available out there. Experiment is where you are going beyond the obvious, trying to work on some things that is not available. So when you're experimenting, you are bound to fail number of times, but it's okay to experiment, and it's a must for you to experiment, for you to excel beyond. So your thinking process, in terms of your thinking through, in terms of thinking on multiple domains, and from there getting into the expression and experience are your contribution areas. In terms of expression, you need to showcase what you've been doing, and in terms of experience, what as a being it brings to you as an individual. So this I would want to showcase it as the Kalpaviksha, the wishing tree. And the final one is what the present state I am. One single slide I put across in terms of what the state which I am at present being. From there, I would want to get into the next area. This is the first part of the presentation, where a journey in finding the path to the eye of the hurricane. So this is where we are starting off with, So where the eye of the hurricane is where the end ultimate journey where we are going towards. But the starting point is where here we started off. I started off with my journey. So I would start off my journey from my school days to early college days. So I was really very calm, to say dumb. So focus was elsewhere. It was not in studies at all. In terms of even because I don't know whether it's part of my the way in which I approach education, or education how I approached me. Studies was the last thing that kept me interested. So major amount of my time I was exploring. I was not also learning. So learning was not in art. I never learned art. It's more of exploring, experimenting on art is where my base lies in. So then from there, the early flutters. So that the being part, which is like that calmness within me was the dumbness within me, where I was not focusing on what the worldly beings wanted me to be, and I was focusing on something else. So from there, this early flutter of me being exposed to the engineering and design curriculum is completely, it's brought in a different perspective, where in terms of engineering, again, I did my civil engineering, but than civil, most of my time I was spending elsewhere. That was the time when computers started opening up. I was spending lots of time on the computer laboratory and doing multiple things in terms of optimization algorithms. So then also, I, as a being, even though I was focusing on one, the core focus I need to do on one, but the actual doing, I was doing something else. So when everyone is walking in one direction, I felt that is not the direction which I should walk. I was not having any logical reasoning to it at that point in time. But when lots of people are going in one direction, I didn't want to go in that particular direction. So this again happened in terms of, in the second year itself, I started to go out of India and study out somewhere. I was, because those were the days when we have to write to universities, get brochures. In second, third year, I was doing all this. But when I was in my fourth year, there are lots of people who were going for GRE, TOEFL, and going abroad. When there are a bunch of people who are going there, it started getting as a frustration. When everyone are going, I don't want to be part of it. Somewhere a snap decision I took, and I told to myself, let me not follow that regular path. Then I was trying to, so that following that regular path again allowed me to align back to my passion. So that following that regular path is somewhere I would want to call it as me getting carried away by the worldly things. So that aligning back to what I am is my art, civil engineering days. It was again too much of exploration on the engineering area, but I would want to again realign back to my art. So that's where I was trying to relook at, and design was the area where it started opening out. So 96, 98, I got into design at IIT Delhi, and it was a different experience at Delhi, where a new place, new location, new learnings. So from there, the wind got a bit windy when I joined Royal Enfield. So after my master's at IIT Delhi, this was the first job which I joined. So it was the initial 2 years at Royal Enfield. I was like doing multiple things, but nothing was getting recognized or nothing was happening. I need to wait too long. But that learning environment was a good playing ground for me, where I experimented a lot in terms of a organization, a large organization. In that, as a fresher, there was a bit of freedom for me to experiment that I was able to use to my advantage. And when Siddharth, who was like as a designer, the 2 years I have designed lots of bikes, but nothing was seeing the light of the day. So then in 2000, Siddharth came over as the CEO, and he told I would want the product to be out in the market very fast. So in about 9 months, the Thunderbird bike was out in the market, which I designed. And that told me, as a designer, I can be an enabler. So it's like a film producer and a director. So when there's a producer who can put in money, then the director, as you as a being, you can perform well. So I was like a king within Enfield. After designing Thunderbird, I set up a design studio there. Lots of things happened. 6 years I spent there. And sometimes it was telling me that I am getting into a comfort zone. When again, this is again one other quality in me. When I am in my comfort zone, I feel I don't want to be there. I would want to come out and explore. So that had made me to come out and explore a different activity where the beginning point was I want to explore more than bikes. So I started my own design studio. Multiple experiments, multiple failures, continuous searching for something unknown was always there. I was looking only forward. I was not reflecting during my centroid days, during my entrepreneurship days. What next is where I was continuously moving. I was doing good amount of command, did lots of activities, lots of struggles were there. Along with that struggles, internally as a being, there was lots of agitation. The being was really forcefully, it was being. And there was no peace in the being. But lots of doing was happening during my Centroid days. So about 350 products across segments, multiple activities. I was a part of the TED fellow community. I was a jury session for India Design Mark, multiple talk sessions. All these were happening, but it was that agitation within me that continuously something was there telling me that I am I need to do something more. I need to do something more. That thing was continuously agitating me, and it was not allowing me to be at peace with myself. So only I put that word of peaceless during my Centroid days. That is when I was also experimenting on multiple startups. One of the startup where on concrete products, I did about 60 products, and that was taken over by Dalmia Cements. And after that, I decided, let me get back to corporate. So that is where my next journey started off with. So now I'm saying that let me decide. But now the last 8-9 months, that me part of it has gone out. That jolt, which I told that I am bringing in the jolt. It is not me bringing in the jolt. The jolt is happening, and me as a being is executing the jolt. Me as a being is taking the decision of I need to change. So instead of accounting all that me, I did, I am trying to move away from that. This last 9 months, I told that I am negligible. So that's where I would want to touch upon most of my rest of the presentations. Siemens is again, I restarted my career at Siemens. So I have been all along as an industrial design person. Siemens is completely a new domain. I wishfully took this opportunity in terms of I need to start from ground up on defining experiences. And me being an entrepreneur for 15 years in a corporate, I felt I was being left out, being suppressed. A bit of ugly competition was there. I was not part of the race. All these were the initial thought processes that were going on when I joined Siemens. I was not in terms with what I was working. So that again, lots of agitation it brought within me. Then that is where, this is again, Siemens I joined to 2 years back in 2019. I was trying to search for a whole. Lots of questions. What is this journey? Where am I going? What is future? What next? All the questions that were going on in my mind, I was trying to explore. I was trying to write a lot, trying to reflect a lot. And that is when Anandoli was speaking with Sir, and Sir has invited Anandoli earlier itself, but Anandoli told, why don't you attend one of the sessions of Sir? And that first session itself, I felt that this is the grip which I was searching for. And I held on to that grip at the right moment. And from there, lots of questions which I had in me. I wouldn't want to say everything got answered. To a certain level, I have a bit of clarity at this point in time. So more questions, but enjoying the moment. The sessions, it had allowed me to, lots of changes were there, part of, along with, from Chennai, I moved on to Bangalore. COVID happened. There was remote working. And that jolt, which I told, I bring in a jolt within myself. The jolt, I was trying to give a jolt to myself. The environment was trying to give a jolt to me. The nature as such was trying to give a jolt to me. But all that agitation, which was there earlier, that actually now if you see me, consider myself now, that agitation has completely subsided. But I am enjoying the jolt. Earlier, when the jolt comes in, that fright factor comes in, that fear factor comes in. Now I'm enjoying that agitation. that figuring out of for answers is not more stressful. Earlier it was stressful. I want to do, I want to do, I want to do. That was what I was earlier. Now also I feel that I would want to, I want to do, I want to do more, but it is not stressful. I'm actually enjoying. Lots of clarity has come in the emptiness that I am now in. So I would want to touch upon each of that as part of the learnings, but this is my past, present, and from there, going on to my future. Uh, mm, so this is a stage where a different level of calmness is where I am searching for now. So from the calmness where I as a person being, I was independent on my own, but as a complete ellipse circles or spiral which I have taken through, the being is searching for a different level of calmness where I'm initiating lots of activities, I'm immersing into lots of activities, getting lots of invites, insights, and inspiring others, and going to a different level of calmness, which I don't know whether how I'm going to define it, but that in that calmness also I am trying to push my limits. I am being prepared. I am living conscious. So where there is no expectations in that calmness, there is no anxiety, no fear, or no stress. But what I am there is I'm aligning with nature, being more precise, more detached, more emptiness, more detached and more emptiness. I wouldn't want to say I have experienced it, but trying to get there. So like what sir says, a normal being is getting into a samurai where he is getting more prepared for the future self, knowing what that unknown. I am not afraid of what it is next that is going to come. Going, the being is continuously searching for next, but that agitation is not there. The preparedness of what I am doing now makes me more confident of what is there for me next. So this is my journey in terms of my past, present, and future. In that, I would want to touch upon, this is my second part of the presentation, where the learning journey of the last 9 months, I would want to bucket it into three areas. One is the exposure, the second is the practice, the third is the tuning. So the exposure is the initial from November, December, that initial two and a half months, where we were discussing on topics that was exposing us on the will, the turning point, the inner oracle. So that was the I put a visual where a diamond is there getting unrecognized, but that exposure is just unearthing the diamond. That mindset change, that belief in self, all that happened in the initial 2 months, where that exposure what Sir gave. And from there, from January onwards, we started to practice a lot in terms of the topics, the referent reality perception, the Jack and Jill exercise, the sound of the forest exercise, master cook. All these were multiple exercises where we were hands-on, we were doing, and multiple reflections on these exercises, and it made us more confident. The third part is the spokes of the self, where the diamond is getting more polished and the glitter is starting to come out. Is that fineness, the higher order preparedness that Sir is getting us prepared for, in terms of the attentions, in terms of the Sanyama, the spokes of the self, variant, invariant, all those are the finer details that we are going on now in the learning process, which are activating multiple of the closed activities which are opening out, and the being is getting more prepared for the future self. So in terms of these three activities, I would want to get more deeper in terms of the sessions. So the 29th November was the second session which I attended, where the first session I'm not really very sure, because first session was more of immersion, where I remember the topic before this test the will. So I attended it because Anandali told, let you also attend the sir's session. The second session was, sir was talking about the will. The session snippets, I would want to capture it as testing the will, identify the boundaries of the will, and focus on the will. So the will is when you are really very tired, as what sir says, but at that point you wanted to do an activity, you leave your tiredness and your will to perform that activity such that your act of performance brings you that more inner satisfaction, or the act of performing itself is you're getting out from your comfort zone, is that will. So from that perspective, in terms of the learnings, I always keep doing multiple activities. So on my table I always have multiple things. Now one main learning is in terms of the will to act on myself. I take one activity. Let me take that one activity and let me complete to the fullest of what I would want my being, what it calls it to be the best. I would want to strive to that level of perfection. There are again two contradictions that continuously keeps happening. So I always say that let me do this presentation in the next 1 hour or so, but the amount of fineness that it requires, it goes, I go along with the flow, and it takes 4, 5, 6 hours also. But earlier I used to be really very agitated. I want to complete within 1 hour, but it's taking 6 hours. That will of completion of that activity, now I am coming to terms, it's okay if it has to take 6 hours, let it take 6 hours. Now this presentation, I made it last time and sent it across, and today afternoon I sat on it. I told to myself, let me spend on it for about 1 hour on this, but around 1 o'clock I sat till 6 o'clock I was working. 5 hours of my time went on making this presentation. 1 hour to 5 hours. Earlier I used to be really very agitated, but now I feel if it has to take the time, I extend myself that will to complete one activity, I do it. And the next one, in terms of will, in terms of my application, my sleeping times have reduced drastically. And it's again, one is I about 3:34 is where I get up, and about 4 to 5 hours is where normally I sleep. Most of the time it's 4, but sometimes it's also 5. But that sleeping, earlier when I don't sleep, I feel really very suffocated. But nowadays, when I'm not sleeping, and when the body is a bit tired, in the day also I take a bit of nap. So I come to terms when I'm trying to push myself, that will to push myself, I get into an uncomfortable zone, but that uncomfortable zone is for some positive thing, which I come to terms with myself, and I get into the being is always now in peace. So that 4 hours of sleep is not straining me, because that 15 minutes or 30 minutes of nap once or twice in the daytime makes me more comfortable, makes me more charged up. If you see some of the sessions and search sessions also, like I completely doze out. Those were the transition times when I was not in comfort zone with myself. So I was not able to handle my body. So I would want to listen to search session, but because I was trying to push myself, my body, it was not in my comfort zone. The mind says I would want to listen, but the body was not willing to cooperate and listen. So those were the times when it becomes really frustrating. But nowadays I'm trying to overcome that and trying to get into a different level where the being is more comfortable. So the search for answers to will up to act upon self, I would want to call it as that high enthusiasm or the vigor. So these two things are some of the basics which I feel, which is allowing me to act on my will to get beyond my comfort zone. Yeah. From there, getting on to my next, I think the 6th December session, where visualizing the new reality. That particular session of SIRS, where attraction to unknown. So some of the snippets from that session where things will be different when you are dependent on the will. Leaving your body to the response of nature. Nature will take care of the being. This has been a tremendous learning in terms of exposing myself, because I have always been thinking about, I have been doing, I am bringing a jolt to myself. I have been when something is wrong, I have been doing a mistake. But that particular session of me being part of a nature, and nature is part of the evolutionary process, and me being a part of that evolutionary process, and where is that I coming into the picture? That's completely changed my perspective. And from maybe it took me some time to remove that me, I am doing from my vocabulary, and surrendering to nature. That particular moment, I came in to peace with myself. So the being was really very comfortable. So if something has to happen, it will happen. So things like that, and only thing that will allow you to be more comfortable is your preparedness. So these are some of the learnings in that session, and application is exploring was going on and on as usual, but with less of agitation. Now also lots of exploration. Earlier the exploration, whenever I am doing, I wanted to get a result. Now when I fail earlier, I get really very agitated. Now also lots of failure happens, but I'm that agitation is not there. That visualizing the unknown, path to mystery, when walking, exploring new pathways. I'm perfectly okay with continuously exploring new pathways. The agitation is completely gone. And in terms of that mystery, in terms of connecting this particular topic of attraction of the unknown, I would also want to touch upon my dreams. Earlier, whenever most of my dreams used to be like I'm getting lost, and I am in some unknown land or something, and I'm deserted. But some of the nowadays dreams are like I'm flying, I'm levitating. So it's like a aircraft where I can take off, I can go around, I can fly, I can see things, and when I want to land, I can land. So this particular dream, I'm not sure how I'm able to relate to it, but it's again allowing me to liberate myself, and that exploration of, I'm not a forceful exploring. When I want to fly, I can fly. When I want to land, I can land. That levitation feeling is making me much more lighter. So I'm feeling that my actual being transformation is also reflecting in the dreams. I'm not sure whether it's direct correlation, but
Of course, direct correlation, Ramesh.
Okay.
Definitely, because so again, remind you all, every piece of every moment and every movement that the being makes, they are all registered or they are all coordinated by the central system, especially the cerebral cortex at this level of discussions. And this I had told you in advance. When new neuronal networks are formed, there will be anything possible. Anything greater will be possible. There is only greatness possible. There will be only expansion possible. There will be only extension possible from that normal dream. That's I wonder now why you did not mention that on the day when it occurred to you. It's a remarkable experience. We will be definitely touching upon the engine of dreaming in some of the subsequent sessions. Dreaming is definitely taken for granted. Nobody gives any importance to dreaming. It is simply pushed away as a, I don't know, as what, some waste material or something, I don't know. It is such a great loss. So that dreaming of levitation, Ramesh, let us say you do it in the consciousness. What difference it would make, you think? Okay, some people would see it and may make comments. That's all, okay? Your being
Yes, sir.
has experienced levitation. That's all. Stop. Do not attack it with the logic. That's a, even now I repeat, I wonder how could you not mention this when it happened on the subsequent session? Brilliant. That is, I feel like, I feel like hugging you. Brilliant, Ramesh, brilliant. That shows the quality of your reflection that you did in the entire program, and it shows a lot. Anyway, that lot is already there. There is no need to talk about that. But I want to give this feedback that dreaming of levitation is actually doing levitation.
Hmm.
So it
I
may
I've
be
also
missing
been
only 1%. It is manifested levitation. Like the difference between the male and the female is just half of the pair of chromosome, just half. That makes the difference between the so-called male and the female body. So that half is missing. That's all. Wonderful. All right, proceed.
So again, to touch upon this dreaming topic, so me as a being, in terms of my learning process, I don't take any learning directly unless I experiment and experience. Then only that learning stays, or that experience stays with me. So this levitation also, I was experimenting that earlier. A few of my dreams, I was feeling okay, fine. It's just a feeling. Then I was able to control my levitation. That is when I felt that that correlation of me being in control of myself, because that centroid days, my entrepreneur days, I was fully fast forward. I was not in control of myself. I was going next. But that nowadays, the speed is not there, but I feel I'm in control of my being. So yeah, so that I would want to touch upon here. Um, yeah, from there, the 13th December session, where the turning point, again, the turning point session is, I also spoke about it. Um, I is negligible. I did not make the turning point. The turning point happened, and I was part of the turning point. So it was
Brilliant,
not,
brilliant. Of course, yeah.
yeah. So that is again reflection on self. When things must happen, it will. You don't. You do the task in hand, and you don't make the turning point. The turning point is happening, and you are in that road, which is where the turning point is coming. So that has completely taken away my mind thing of I am doing. That has completely gone out, and sometimes I feel that I have done lots, but and Siemens, when I completely told that let me throw away my last 15, 16 years of my career and restart it completely fresh. It was a bit of jolt which I want to give it to me, but that again, uh, what I would want to say is, here is that I is gone. Something has to happen in that journey. I am part of the journey, and wherever I am in the journey, let me do that particular moment properly. So that had given me a big understanding during this turning point session. Things has to happen, it will happen. In terms of the application, look back at critical turning points. It happened for a reason. So from instead of me felt that I did it, it happened for a reason, and I was part of it. And I always look for me creating a jolt in my future self. extrapolating and preparedness to handle is only one thing which that jolt is not created by me. The jolt will come when it has to come. The turning point might come the next moment, might come tomorrow, might come next week, but I am not making that turning point. Turning point is already there. Me being in that path which I am traveling, my preparedness of what I am doing in the present moment allows me to be in that turning point. How am I going to handle that turning point? Whether the turning point is going to skid me or the turning point is allowing me to navigate that turn more elegantly. That allows my preparedness to go in that turning point much more smoother. So I can fall the hill in that turning point. I can skid in that turning point. I can be more elegant in navigating in the turning point. Anything might happen. And none of that is within my control. The I is negligible there. My preparedness will allow me to pass through it elegantly. That is the only thing which is there in store. So I cannot make turning points happen. I disappears. Just be prepared to face it. So that's what I would want to communicate here. That is the main application which I'm doing. Self-feedback, self-awareness. So all these were part of the turning point sessions. From there, the inner oracle. So listening to the inner self, listening to the inner voice, the internal guidance is again one, your choice, decision, and action. Your openness to experiences. These are all some snippets from the session. Whatever happens, it's for a purpose. So these are all some snippets from the session. The learnings and applications is detachment from the past. So in this session, I am talking about the past, but normally I come to terms that I am not going to talk about my past, not about my past successes or not about my past failures. That is again one level of detachment of my past that I felt I already executed that. So, but earlier I used to, sometimes when I need to talk about my failures, I really go overboard in terms of talking about my failures. So when I want to boast about myself, talk about my successes, I really go overboard in terms of talking about my successes. Both were there in my past. Now, completely, I've got detached from failures or successes. That excess baggage of my past, I'm not carrying it at all. So my reflection is always in terms of what I reflect my day. That is what it is. What my doing is doing at that particular point in time, that reflection of that particular day, than the reflection of my failures and successes and getting stressful. I'm getting entangled from that, and that is one level of detachment which I've seen. The level, the life in the present is that swiftness is not there. I am beating around the bush a lot at this point in time. So I also talk about what I am beating around the bush. I am not. I know I'm going towards the somewhere in the peak of the mountain. The earlier, my earlier avatar in being an entrepreneur, when I want to go towards the peak, I was really very swift. I make multiple mistakes. I fall multiple times. But now that I'm beating around the bush, I'm doing multiple things, and the being is consistently moving. It's more comfortable, and it is at its natural pace. When my being is at its natural pace, sometimes it is really very swift. Sometimes that sluggishness comes. When that sluggishness is there, I feel that sluggishness is there for a reason, and that sluggishness is required for me to get back in that pace. So that continuous running without reflecting did not yield me a peaceful result. But now that beating around the bush, I am taking things at its own pace. When I need to go fast, I go fast. When I need to go at a smaller pace, I'm okay in that terms. So, but I'm slow but focused. But again, the third, past, present, and future, detached from the future, I'm not there still. So sometimes that fear of the future starts creeping in, but not as much as what it was earlier. Earlier, it always used to be, what if the centroid closes down, or what if I don't get a job, or what if the family, if some fight happens, what if something bad happens. Lots of that fear was there. Now that fear is reduced drastically, but still that detachment in that fear also I'm trying to come over. So that is again happened because that listening to the inner being, my inner voice, my inner guidance, I was always looking for answers outside. The environment or the surroundings will give me answers. The surrounding is on its own, but the answers are within the being. So listening to self, that inner guidance, if it's space, coming to terms with that, that is one important learning during that session of that inner oracle. From there, getting on to the next topic of randomness and structure, where eccentric and being organized, both being two extremes. It's okay to be eccentric. Other side, it comes with certain level of inner organizing. It's converse. Both are two sides of the spectrum. Will in being organized. So those were some of the topics that we discussed at that point. So in terms of learnings, I was my 16,300 days of is like I wouldn't want it to be really repetitive. Every single day, I always look to it. There is some newness in that. Something if something is repeating, I try to come out of that repetition, move out from that normal zone. When I'm trying to move out, earlier there was lots of self-doubt and uncomfortable feeling comes in. But now uh, that being eccentric is okay. That acceptance has started to come in, and that eccentricity is where uh, allows me to be more experimental. And that experimental, when I'm doing that experimentation, I'm not doing it agitation. I'm doing at my own ease.